Thin is in. Kneeboarding was on the Pro Tour as an exhibition competition from 1986 to 1991. I was there, but not invited to compete. That's because Hydroslide was the exclusive kneeboard sponsor, and I worked for HO. I took my turn on the water performing my hot dog slalom routine, but the kneeboarding was left to the boys from Hydroslide. Needless to say, it was a little frustrating to watch them go for the cash on TV. At the beginning of the 1990s, kneeboarding was still the water ski discipline that attracted the most attention. Board sales approached 200,000 a year, riders were still regularly coming up with new tricks, and the magazines covered the developing action. Wakeboarding, still called skiboarding in those days, was making advances, but progress was slow. Most of the skiboards of the day were made the same as kneeboards, a plastic shell that was filled with foam. The biggest problem was that the boards were too buoyant for average riders to do deep water starts. As the general population struggled to get up on their skirfers, kneeboarding kept charging ahead with more sales, more tricks, and more coverage than ever. But it was the last of the glory days for kneeboarding. Everything was about to change when Herb O'Brien decided to make the first real wakeboard. Wakeboarding had its roots in the board sports, and two guys from an HO dealership in Vancouver considered the similarities to snowboarding. Paul and Murray Fraser sold water skis and skirfers in the summer and snowboards in the winter. They instinctively knew that wakeboards should be thin, just like a snowboard. The brothers presented their idea to Herb O'Brien, and he went for it. Others around the industry were thinking the same thing, but Herb had the advantage of years of innovation and the know-how to implement new production methods. HO introduced the Hyperlite in 1991. It was the world's first compression-molded wakeboard, and it was a quantum jump in performance. Riders could push the board underwater for easy deep-water starts. The die was cast, thin was in, and the big ski companies raced to make compression-molded boards. Wakeboarding was born, and the new sport grew like wildfire. Wakeboarding and kneeboarding were now in direct competition with each other. Kneeboarding was still the cash cow for the industry, and the tricks were still miles ahead of what was being done on a wakeboard. But something about wakeboarding appealed to young riders who may have also considered kneeboarding. Randy Harris was one such teen rider who exemplified the feelings of the time. One day in Canyon Lake, California, I was asked by Larry Harris to take his boys Randy and Brandon out for a ride. I was still well known in water ski circles, and Larry wanted his two boys to go out with a pro to get a demonstration and tips on riding. All three of us took turns on the kneeboard and wakeboard. The tricks you could do on a kneeboard were cool, but wakeboarding felt cool. You stood up. It was more expressive. It was reminiscent of snowboarding, surfing, and skateboarding. Like many young riders of the day who were exposed to both rides, Randy simply liked wakeboarding better. He dedicated himself to the sport and with his father's support went on to become one of the most recognizable free riders in the late 1990s and beyond. Like Randy, more and more riders chose wakeboarding over kneeboarding. The manufacturers switched too, redirecting money and support from kneeboarding to wakeboarding. Kneeboarding was still more popular in terms of sales, but it was losing ground fast to wakeboarding. I made a switch of sorts too. I had already retired from professional kneeboard competitions, so I devoted more time to wakeboarding. I never stopped kneeboarding, I just widened my horizons with another new way to ride. It was easy to see where the industry was going, and I wanted to be valuable to HO in as many ways as possible. HO was killing it with their new Hyperlite wakeboard. It was the single hottest item in all of water skiing. With that success, Herb decided to apply the new manufacturing process for the Hyperlite to a kneeboard too. The board, called the Edge 720, was the first compression-molded kneeboard. I headed down to Florida again with director Eddie Roberts, B.B. Anderson, and Mark Richard to film another promotional video for dealers and boat shows. Eddie wrote a catchy song to accent all the fun we were having. Steel drums pounded to the deep Jamaican-style singer.
It's 720, way cool fun when it's sunny. Slice through the wick like a knife on a cake on the HO at 720. Hey, baby. Oh, go on, girl.
The race was on for more thin kneeboards, and O'Brien released their version in the wake of HO's success with the Edge 720. The O'Brien Vortex was designed by Lonnie Marchand with help from the engineers at the factory. The new spoon shape of the board caused a lot of drag, but the high-end payoff came in spades with bigger air and much easier combo tricks. The increase in performance from the boards themselves and the all-new designs helped boost overall sales and gave kneeboarding a much-needed shot in the arm. The foam-filled boards still sold well and became the price point alternative for recreational riders. Thin was in, and most of the top riders made the switch. All the manufacturers wanted a thin board. Straightline, a company known primarily for making ropes, approached Ted Bevilacqua to design a new board. His surf style on the kneeboard did not mesh well with the HO Edge 720, so he took the job. Ted's new design was the Neptune, and it made waves with riders and the buying public. The board was a solid performer designed by a pro rider, but it was the knee pad that elevated the Neptune to a higher level. It was a deeply padded black beauty with deep channels to provide lateral support for each leg. One look made you instantly want to kneel down on it to see if it really was as comfortable as it looked. Teddy B's new knee pad raised the bar for every subsequent design. Herb's response to the Neptune was to have me design a new high-performance kneeboard for HO. I used all my skills in kneeboarding to design a board that would do everything. The result was the Joker. It was my best board ever and instantly became a favorite of kneeboarders around the world. The graphic team at HO, led by Scott Cook, deserves a ton of credit for the success. The Joker's striking look used a comic book character that was colorful, fun, and a little mischievous. It reflected the feeling of the sport, and the graphics alone sold thousands of boards. Herb was always pushing to have the best of everything for all his products. He loved to be the innovator, and in the rare cases when someone beat him to the punch, he tried to make his products even that much better. Such was the case with the Neptune knee pad. I spent a week at the HO factory in Redmond, Washington, working with the factory tech to shape our new knee pad. Ted's design was the gold standard at the time, and I used it as a starting point to create my own version of what a pad should be. At the factory, we spent days making a plug out of Bondo. It was like creating a little sculpture step by step. Build it up, then take away the rough edges and extra bumps. There was a lot of sanding and morning coffee runs to Starbucks. Those Seattle boys can drink some serious Java. I was in the middle of chiropractic college at the time, and I used my knowledge of the human body to design a pad that fit the anatomy of the knees, legs, ankles, and toes. I included slots for the little bump on the knees. It had full support through the entire shin and ankles rather than just an ankle pad. It even had an angled drop-off for the ankle joints to increase comfort. The final touch for the Joker was the new strap I designed. It didn't have any revolutionary breakthroughs, just the best features of all the previous straps rolled into one. A fixed pad that didn't slide around, tabs to keep it from slipping through the footman loops, and plenty of Velcro. My skiing career was increasingly shifting to what I called smoke and mirrors. If I wasn't going to win any more championships, I would have to make myself useful in other innovative ways. Becoming the Joker for photos was one such successful ploy to stay in the public eye. It extended my value to the company for another year. I also pushed hard to get more ink than any other skier or boarder, averaging more than 60 full magazine pages a year in the mid-1990s. I got involved with wakeboarding as a writer, judge, event organizer, and director of the Hyperlight Tour. I even took a shot at offshore tubing in the Catalina ski race. When I retired from kneeboarding competitions, David Jennings took over as the top kneeboarder at HO. He lifted the Joker to unprecedented levels. He unleashed a dangerous-looking front-to-front 720 spin with the double wrap. That trick, and his ability to do combo rolls behind the sea-doo, led him to many competitive victories in the 1990s.